Hello, my loves. Welcome to June's mid-month. This is a special broadcast. So this is a mid-month energy update. And we're going to be focusing on the solar eclipse and the Vesica Pisces and just this really pivotal point in humanity that we are at. And so I didn't get to go real deep in the first, even though it was an hour-long energy update in the beginning of June, I didn't get to go real deep into certain things. And I've been getting a lot of messages lately and seeing a lot of things. I hope you guys have been too. And I just want to talk about it and just kind of bring some light to it. So for those that are new to me, I am Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, and healer. And I'm really here to help people move from surviving to thriving, to change and transform their pain into purpose so that they can create the reality that they're truly desiring. So we get to the root. That's what I focus on, is getting to the root issues so we can change those root programs and patterns. So as you're hopping on, say hello. Hi, Misty. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you're watching the replay, just hashtag it replay. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from so I can give you some love. And don't forget to share, you guys. These are important messages. So many people are struggling to navigate the energies, and any messages we can bring forth to really help them understand what's happening and how to navigate it is so important at this time, you know? So let's dive in because we have a lot to cover, and I have some notes because you guys know how I can get into a flow and kind of lose that track of not forgetting everything because there's so much that wants to come through once I get on here, right? So hi, Lori. Hi, Terry Lynn. Hi, Rebecca. Los Angeles. It's my home state, California. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I feel beautiful. I don't know, something happens when you begin to embody your higher self. You just feel light as a feather. And yesterday, before we dive in, yesterday we had, right now we have some solar winds and some cosmic energy coming in. And right when it began to come in, and I posted about this, but it's worth mentioning again. You guys, the energy was so intense, but for me anyway, the way that I experienced it was pure bliss. It was like ecstasy. I felt so incredibly light, and the visuals that they were giving me were people holding hands and skipping and rainbows and sunshine, and What a Wonderful World was playing. I was hearing that clairaudiently in my consciousness, and they were telling me that this is a representation of what the goal is, right? What we're moving through, and we have to have a lot of things fall away, and we got to kind of walk through the fire of the flames and to get to that other side and see the beauty of living in a space of neutrality, living in that 0 point frequency and moving out of the energy of duality. And this is what I really want to be talking about. So as we dive in, as you guys have probably been feeling the energy ramping up, the portals are already opening. On the 20th, which is Saturday, I'm in the US. I know I have a lot of international followers and students. So everything that I say is going to be US based as far as timing. Saturday on the 20th is our solstice. And then on the 21st, we have a new moon and solar eclipse in 0 degrees Cancer, you guys. I am a Cancer as my sun sign. Let me tell you, people are probably going to be coming out of the woodwork, right? Who, if you are a Cancer, or if you are one of the archetypes we would label as a nurturer or the fixer or the mama bear, you are going to be having people coming out of the woodwork, wanting to talk to you, wanting to share their problems, wanting advice. And there's nothing wrong with that if you feel called to be a friend and be of service. But one of the big messages that came through in regards to that was, be sure that you're serving yourself first. Make sure that you are not helping everybody else and not helping yourself first. You cannot pour from an empty cup. We have to keep reminding you guys of that. We cannot pour from an empty cup. It is not selfish to put yourself first. It is not selfish to take care of yourself, to nurture yourself, to love yourself. It is not. You must take that time because remember, people are always watching us. And so for me as a mom, right, I spent my whole life putting my kids and everybody else in front of me. And so as a mom with an adult child now, I'm watching her do the same thing and not take care of herself. It's a very bad habit to pass along. So take some advice from me. Don't do it. Just take care of yourself first, and then you can take care of anybody you want. You'll have all the energy and all the love to do it. Okay. So this solar eclipse, this is really a very pivotal point. And I'm going to tell you why. Because a solar eclipse, number one, is an activation. Okay. It's an activation. And as I talked about in the last energy update, we're going to be having an activation of our heart chakra. We're going to be having an activation of our soul tribe, our soul family. We're going to be having an activation of our third eye. And for some, I know have already been experiencing the third eye activations. You may be seeing glitches in the matrix. I have been seeing glitches for weeks, and it's a really trippy thing to see. So if you ever see like your computer screen glitch out or your TV screen glitch out, so just imagine sitting in a room and you're just like, say, staring at a wall or an object, and all of a sudden you see glitching and you're like, what is happening? And that's because we have so many timelines collapsing right now, and it's only going to accelerate. So this eclipse is actually helping to align us fully with a Stargate. It's more like a wormhole, if you ask me. But the cool thing is we have been synchronizing with this Stargate since 2012. This is when the synchronizations began with this wormhole. And as we enter into the eclipse, this is when we're going to be entering into this wormhole, into this Stargate. And this is an acceleration point for humanity. This is a quantum leap. So over the next 6 months or so, we are going to see some massive acceleration in our collective consciousness, in the way that things are looking in humanity, right? In people individually. Not only that, but when we enter into this wormhole, there's going to be a feeling of no time, right? Because remember, time doesn't really exist. It's something that we created, right? So when you get into quantum perspective and being in the quantum field, it's just everything is all inclusive. It's not in a linear fashion, okay? And we kind of created that linear fashion and the concept of time. So we're going to be entering into no time. So what does that feel like? For anybody who has ever experienced no time, for me, what it feels like is you'll be doing something that you feel like you've been doing it for hours, and you look up in the clock and it's only been 5 minutes, right? And you're like, what the heck? How did that happen, right? You experience the energy of the 0 point, and the 0 point is the heart space. It's the space of neutrality, okay? It's not right or left. It's not right or wrong, right? It's not ego or higher self. It's literally the space between, the bridge. And we're going to be in this space, this quantum energy, for a little while. And so for some, you could feel a little loopy. You could feel very ungrounded, like you could start tripping or, bumping into things. You could feel a little spacey. You could have... you can have vertigo even, so really kind of check in with yourself and be super present, you guys. Basically from this moment on, just practice presence. And so when you're present in your reality, and that means you're not in your head, okay? You're not coming up with a comeback. You're not in your head judging the person as they're talking or judging yourself as you're having an action. You're not focused on what's coming next. You're not focused on what just happened. You are literally in the moment, breathing, experiencing, listening, acting, doing whatever it is that you are doing. And you're fully in that moment. And in that space, you get to be the observer of your reality. And when you're the observer, I always go like this. because that's what it feels like to me. When I'm the observer of my reality, I create this space between what's going on and myself. And this allows me to see, feel, sense the energy shift that may be coming, and allowing myself to not be blindsided or caught off guard, right? I'm fully present and in the moment, and I'm not going to be reactionary, right? I'm going to be able to respond calmly and with clarity. All right. So it's a really big difference when you're in that present moment versus being in your head, right? So really practice being in that present moment. So as we're going through this acceleration point, as I mentioned, we're also going to be having the heart chakra activation. And that's been going on, but this is when we're really ramping up. And when we go through this collective heart activation, that's actually going to happen on the day of the eclipse, this can feel like chest pains. It can feel like shortness of breath. It can feel like your chest is about to explode. You can all of a sudden become super sensitive and super emotional, meaning like you just begin to just pour the tears out, right? And you may not even think anything's wrong. And this happens to me all the time. Literally, I can be driving somewhere and I can be completely in my heart space and wide open, and I will just have tears flowing. And it's just the most magical feeling because there's no emotional density attached to it. But for some people, they have built some serious walls around their heart because we've been hurt, we've been abandoned, we've been rejected, right? We've been picked on, we've been doubted, we've been blamed, we have not felt good about ourselves. And so over time and over years of trauma and triggers and things that we haven't dealt with, we felt it safer to build walls around our heart. And when our heart is closed off or there's walls around it, our emotions can't be translated. Oftentimes, students will come to me, whether in private mentorship or in a digital experience, and they'll say, Johanna, I really want to see clairvoyantly. I really want to see like you do. Or I really want to hear clairaudiently. Or I really want to be in touch with my guides or my team. And I say, well, the trick is to make as much space inside of you as you possibly can. Because the more space you have available and the more you open up your heart and allow your emotions to rise up and be accepted into your heart space, loving yourself through whatever you are feeling, thinking, being in that moment in time, and nurturing yourself as those dense energies, right? And I'm talking about guilt, shame, resentment, anger, that victim mentality, scarcity, lack, right? Grief, because the world is grieving right now. When we allow our heart to open and accept those emotions into our heart, we're not accepting that it's okay to be, we're not accepting the anger and saying, I'm just an angry person and that's what I'm going to accept, right? Or I don't want to accept shame, or I don't want to accept myself for how I am. What you're doing by opening your heart is actually loving yourself and nurturing yourself as a mother would do to a child. You are saying it's okay to feel this way in this moment. It's okay because the reason it's coming up is because it's ready. It's ready to be transmuted. It's ready for you to make space inside of you so that you feel and look and live light and enhanced, and you thrive and you flow, and life is just a beautiful journey. But as those heavy, dense emotions come into the heart field, they are neutralized, and then they can be translated. And they get translated into images and sounds. Now, if there are plenty of people who already have their third eye open, right, and already have these things, but maybe they don't see the most peaceful things. Maybe they see a lot of darkness or things that scare them. And that may be because they are holding a lot of density inside of them. So for some reason, somebody needed to hear that. We kind of sidestepped a little bit. But know that through this heart activation, if you have a lot of energies, right, that have been living subconsciously or unconsciously inside of us, because remember that for the average person, 90 to 95% of them is unconscious or subconscious. That's a lot of you that you're not aware of. And what is an awakening? It's becoming more aware of the self, more aware of all aspects of you, the good, the bad, and the funky. You know what I mean? And so we want to allow for those walls to fall down. And as they do, it may feel emotional. It may feel, you may feel very low. You may feel like you have the flu. You may get a summer cold, right? So have somebody that you can reach out to, whether it's a friend who is not judgmental, right, who will hold space for you. If it's a family member who will do that, maybe it's a mentor. Whatever, reach out to somebody. Know that you're not alone, that there are so many going through this right now, okay? And as we get closer to all of this eclipse energy, we're also going to be going through the Vesica Pisces. And the Vesica Pisces is the great rebalancing that I talked about in the beginning of June. It's literally all of us entering into that quantum space between the masculine and the feminine, between the ego and the higher self, between the dark and the light, okay? Because the more our hearts open and the more people come into self-realization, the more people begin to see through the illusion that's being portrayed and fed through the media into the three-dimensional plane, the more that people stop buying into the media and what's being fed to us, right? Influencing us and our state of being. And the more we step back into that neutrality, the more the light expands. But here's what they said, and I loved this analogy. So for anyone out there who's ever cleaned their house, right? Maybe you clean your house, you think, oh, my house is so clean. Then you get new light bulbs. So you put the new light bulbs in, you're like, it's going to be so bright and airy in here. And you get the light bulbs in and you look around and all of a sudden you're like, my house isn't so clean. I thought it was clean. It's not so clean, right? You start to see more of the dirt you missed, more of the clutter that you couldn't see before, right? So the brighter the light is, the more aware we become of the dark, the more aware we become of the belief systems and the programs and patterns and the paradigms that have been running for centuries that are no longer serving. And you get a choice. You can see the impact of that darkness as a bad thing, right? You can see it as something you need to fight for, something that you need to stand up and protest, or something that you need to do a bunch of stuff with. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right to do that. Whatever you feel called to do is what's right for you. But please make sure that what you're doing isn't coming from a place of fear based upon media influencing you to take a stand in right or left, in red or blue, in light or dark, right? And instead see it as energies, an underbelly of trauma and energies that we have been repressing and holding down, right? So for many, many years, centuries, you guys, we have been working on the surface levels, the masks of all of the conditioning and programming and things that have happened from our ancestors and beyond, right? There's been a lot of trauma over the centuries. And instead of really going down deep into the root and getting to the root source, we have been playing in the masks and at the very surface level. So all the dense energy, this underbelly, as I spoke about in the beginning of June, is rising up, and we're starting to see. And the more people realize and start seeing through this illusion, they're like, that doesn't work for me. Like, that doesn't feel right anymore. So sure, if that's something you feel you're here to do and it's coming from your heart space and not from a space of influence, then by all means, protest, do whatever you want to do, share all of that. But let me tell you something that my team told me, my spirit team told me a long time ago. And they said, what you do when you're alone behind closed doors, how you respond or react, how you judge or accept, right? How you shame or guilt someone or have compassion and see that they are just a human being. How you portray those energies, how you demonstrate them, how you think, how you feel, how you behave, your actions behind closed doors when no one can see you, that is your primary energy. That is what the universe is responding to. Because there is a lot of people right now, and I talked about this earlier, right? The false prophecies. There's a lot of people who are showing up online and they're speaking this great truth and they're saying all these things. But when they close their computer and they're not being seen, they're acting completely different. And that's where they are, and that's okay, right? I'm not here to judge them, but the message was very clear. If you want to change the collective energy, if you want to change the way this world is operating, and you want to see humanity show up differently, then that means that each and every single person in the collective needs to look at themselves in the mirror, and they need to say, how am I operating out of alignment? How am I not showing up and being the change that I actually want to see in the world? When nobody's watching me, when I don't have to have a mask on, when I don't have to pretend to have all my shit together, right? How are you acting behind closed doors when nobody's watching or when you're with your family? This is what you need to look at, and this is what you need to ask yourself. This is the greatest way for us to individually work together to shift humanity, is by looking in the mirror and facing our own density, facing our own programs and patterning. So as we go through this great rebalancing, right? Think of it as that bridge, that intersection point. So instead of looking at what's happening in the media or in the three-dimensional plane, instead of focusing just on the light and being positive and hopeful and not acknowledging anything, we want you to come into the space of neutrality. And that's what's really happening, is the energies are trying to find a balance, because the universe is always in harmony. Even if it doesn't appear that way, the universe is always in harmony. So it's going to rebalance itself. And that's what we're going through. And as we go through this rebalancing and you're able to be more in a neutral place of observing what's happening, right? And seeing how this is all happening for us to move us into collectively more into a fifth dimensional consciousness, the more it won't be so personal to you. Because suffering is self-obsession. When we take a problem and we make it about us and we make it personal, then we begin to suffer. And as someone who spent a lot of time doing that, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all. So think of this great balancing as that bridge, that intersection point where we all want to meet, okay? But with the great rebalancing comes a divine realignment. And I want to talk about this for a second, because not everybody's going to experience this, but a lot of you are. And the ones that are going to really experience this, these are the new earth teachers and leaders and influencers. And you may not think that you are a new earth teacher, or that you are a multidimensional channel, or that you are an influencer. But any place you go and anything you do, someone's going to be watching you, right? And how you behave. If someone sees something, a behavior that they really admire and appreciate, they're not going to forget that. Okay. So whether you're a yoga teacher, a school teacher, a lawyer, a healer, someone who works in corporate America, you always have the choice to have a positive influence and be the change and bring these multidimensional teachings into the mainstream. And that's already happening. We're seeing it. And it's just going to become more and more apparent, right? So never underestimate who you are. Don't just say, I'm just a mom, or I just work at a store. See yourself as your truth, okay? And that's part of that third eye awakening that's coming, is we're going to be really seeing our truth. We're going to be seeing more of ourselves. We're going to be seeing the truth of what's been fed to us, right? And spun, right, from a space of greed and hierarchy, instead of what's best for humanity, what's best for the whole. And that's powerful. Once you begin to see that, you really can't unsee it anymore. You just have to begin to work on reframing and repatterning those beliefs and programs that have been running. They've been running for a long time. So it's not going to happen overnight. It does take a dedication and a commitment to yourself to really step in to being the person you want to be. And that's what they also wanted to talk about. What they're reminding me of right now is that as this ramps up, remember, you guys, you always have that connection to the collective mind. So try to keep your focus on who you are becoming, who you want to be, how you want your reality to look. Because in the energies that are coming, you can very easily, if you're not present and if you're not focusing on what you desire to be and how you desire your reality to be, and living through that lens of, is this the way that my future self would think? Is this how I would behave if I was already where I wanted to be? Right? This is how we demonstrate it out. So I want you to really focus on that, because it can be very easy to get swept up by that collective mind and find yourself circling the drain, doing things over and over again that aren't serving you. And that can really drag you down into a low place. And I would hope that I wouldn't want anybody to go there. I wouldn't want anybody to feel that way. Excuse me. So this is about responding instead of reacting, right? Taking responsibility for how you feel, for the thoughts that you're thinking, for the way that your reality is looking, because everything is a mirror. Everything that you see in your reality has manifested from a space of, first it began as a thought, and then you attached an emotion to that, right? It's like the clouds go by, right? So those are your thoughts going by. You're like, oh, that's mine. And you pull it down with your emotion, you attach to it. And because now you have this emotion, there's a motor behind it. There's an energy. So then you begin to speak or act, because now you've had an emotional attachment to this thought. And just like that, you've created a belief. And you can end up doing this and going backwards, right? Reinstalling old programs and patterns if you're not being present to what you are thinking, feeling, attaching to, taking personally, all of those things. So I can't tell you how important it is to be present. And if you're not and something happens, don't beat yourself up. Take responsibility and course correct it. Okay? So for this divine realignment that's going to be happening, for those of you who will experience this, that have been working on themselves for a while now, right? These are, like I was talking about, the new earth teachers, healers, guides, people who are here to really usher in the change of humanity and be that positive influence, being the one that is really spreading the neutrality and helping people see that we're meant to live multidimensionally, right? Not spiritually, not new age, not religiously, none of those things. We're meant to experience and be all of who we are. And that's multidimensional. So as we go through this, some of you will have some very big, abrupt changes, right? So this is how this can happen. So this can be something where you lose a job, you lose a client, you close a business, something dramatic happens, something abrupt happens, and we think, oh my gosh, why did this happen to me? But maybe that thing had to happen to make space because you weren't really listening to yourself. And so they're coming in to divinely realign you and say, you're going in the wrong direction. Let's move you over here. And now that we have let go of X, Y, and Z, now you have space to actually receive what you really wanted, but you didn't even realize it. Or you weren't giving yourself enough space to see that there was a million different pathways to get to this. And you were limiting yourself over here. So this is when we have a lot of abrupt changes, right? Job losses, divorces, new relationships coming in, new jobs appearing, new businesses being developed. Holy crap, creations and insights, epiphanies. This is also the miracle energy. When something happens that's like, oh my God, it was a complete miracle, or you just know it was meant to be. It's funny because all of you guys, I'm sure everybody knows who Garth Brooks is, right? Garth Brooks was turned down by 7 record labels. 7. Can you imagine a world without Garth Brooks in it? Even if you don't like country, you know who Garth Brooks is, right? So then he went to the Bluebird, which was a songwriter's little area where people would come and watch. And the same record label, one of the same record labels that said no to him, happened to be there to watch another singer who was in the number 2 slot. But that slot, that person, that number 2 slot, he didn't show up. And they put Garth in his place. And that record label changed their mind. And the rest is history. That is divine realignment. When the miracle is allowed in. And sometimes that means that something has to fall away really quickly. So imagine in this time, right? Meditating, being present, focusing on your heart center, taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself, and creating that space to allow for these downloads and epiphanies and insights to come in. And remembering if something abrupt happens and you're like, oh my God, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Instead of asking why, say, think to yourself, feel and say, what is this making space for? While it may suck during the abruptness of whatever happens, it is making space for something. So remember to focus on the potential of what could be coming in and that you're making space instead of focusing in on the victim mentality of why did this happen? We've all been there. We've all done it, me included. Why did this happen? And poor me. Instead, be like, well, this happened. What is this trying to show me? What is this making space for? And let go of it. Don't drag it out. Don't allow it to be something that consumes you. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't call 10 girlfriends. Do you see what I'm saying? Check yourself. And I wanted to tell you guys this before this energy got really intense, because as we start to get closer, some of you are going to be feeling this energy before it even manifests or it has the actual experience. Okay? Because a lot of starseeds and light workers, they will begin to feel the energy days before the event. Days before anything actually shows up on the Schumann resonance, right? So they're going to be feeling the energy of it, especially if you're super sensitive. So allow yourself to make that space. Let me think if there's anything else. Oh, yes. Okay. And then I'm going to look at the comments. So I'm going to give you guys some visuals that I've been getting. I have been getting a lot of Egypt energy, and I'm not surprised by that. I've had a lot of lifetimes in Egypt. But something that's been showing up that was really interesting is the sacred scarab. And it's a dung beetle, basically, that was worshipped in Egypt. And the sacred scarab actually is the energy of, it's an incarnation of the sun god Khepri. And Khepri is the one who represents the rising sun, the new dawn. Okay. So I have been seeing this in my third eye all over the place. Like even right now, as I'm seeing, they're crawling all over the walls. Everywhere I go, I've been seeing them, and they've been about the size of, I would say about here. So about the size of my forearm. So about a foot and probably a foot wide too. I mean, they've been showing up huge. And they don't scare me. I don't feel icky like you would if you see a bug. You know what I mean? They feel very sacred and they feel very magical. But what these dung beetles, these sacred scarabs do, you know, what they feast on the undigested feces, basically, of herbivorous animals. And I was tuning in. I've just been observing the fact that I've been seeing them everywhere. And so yesterday, actually over the last 2 days, I have been really tuning in to my team and saying, what is this here for? Is it for me? Is it for the collective? And what they said was, there's so much undigested emotions and trauma that's coming up. When I talk about the rise of the ruins, the earth is like opening up and allowing for this underbelly of energy to rise to the surface to be seen. And the reason why is because we need to see the depth. We need to see the depth of it. We need to feel the impact of it. And then we need to open up our hearts and love each other through it. And as we're doing that, there is so much that's coming up. These sacred scarabs are literally all over the earth plane, all over the place. And what they're doing is they're literally eating the undigested emotions. If you follow me, if you've been in any of my programs, mentorships, anything, you will know that I am the one who, my team brings forth what they call the emotional digestion cycle. And so we have to digest our emotions the same way we digest food, because our emotions are fuel the way that food is fuel. And so anything that is not being digested, right, that doesn't need to be digested, maybe it's just old and it's being purged to the surface, they are going around and they are eating it and digesting it. I know that sounds weird, but that's the information that I'm being given, and as a metaphor, right? And the images that I have been seeing. I've been seeing them everywhere. And there's also some sacred medicine technology that's going to be surfacing. I've already started to receive bits and pieces of the sacred medicine technology from the ancients that are coming up. This is from the ancients, which are the OGs of the earth plane, right? Of this whole entire frequency that we call a planet. They are the rock collective. Which has expanded into the tree collective. It's expanded into the indigenous tribes, into medicine women, men and women, into a lot of shaman energy. So there's a lot of sacred technology, healing technology that people are going to begin receiving and begin working with on themselves and bringing to light for humanity, for the new earth moving forward. And that's super exciting, okay? But as this rise of the ruins that I talk about happens, what I forgot to mention in our last broadcast was with all these earthquakes, floods, melting of ice glaciers, extreme weather, it's literally the earth plane is cracking open and allowing things to be revealed. So over the next 6 months to, I'm going to say from between now and 2022, we are going to be seeing things show up that are going to blow your mind. Right? We're talking about artifacts, scribes, books that hold technologies and writings, all kinds of things are going to be being revealed. It's like they're giving them back to us, because when we go through this rebalancing and more of the collective is in a fifth dimensional consciousness, okay? When more of us are in that consciousness, the more that we will appreciate and value and honor this sacred technology and teachings that are going to be revealed. Okay. So this information is coming back. And I want you to think about the Great Pyramids, or just think about the things that they did way before technology was invented. How do you think they did that? Right? They weren't living in a third dimensional consciousness. They were multidimensional beings. They had access to the infiniteness that is our universe. And they already had these sacred technologies. They already had these sacred teachings. And now we are at a space where we will soon be able to respect and honor them for what they are and actually implement them and put them into use again. Because as we shift, right, as collectively we shift from a third dimension to a fifth dimension, that means more of our body is made up of light instead of carbon. More of our body is diamond encoded, is crystalline. Okay. And crystalline energy is way lighter than something that's carbon based and heavy and dense. And so as we do this, right, we need higher technology, AKA 5G. Look at any time we've had an upgrade of technology, you'll see that we went through some type of pandemic or some type of illness as our bodies make space and purge and become crystalline to be able to handle those frequencies. And we need those frequencies. And not everybody's going to agree with me here, and that's okay. You can have your belief, and I can have my understanding that comes to me. And I believe in it. It makes sense to me. It feels good to me. It resonates with me. Okay? And so we'll be able to respect these technologies. And something I wasn't going to talk about, but it's showing up, is that a lot of people don't understand the 3rd to 5D shift. And so I want to kind of make it really simple for you. The third dimensional plane will not go away, and neither will the fourth dimensional plane. These are planes of consciousness, okay? Our bodies, we have a earth star chakra and we have a soul chakra. And I want you to think of those as the North and South Pole. And our heart, right, is earth, and it is our home. And our system orbits that heart in the shape of an infinity symbol between the soul chakra and the earth star chakra. And this is how our system operates. I go really deep in this in Unity, in my digital experience Unity, for all of us integrating that higher self and getting on the same page. I go really deep into that. If you're called to it, you can let me know. But this is the basics of it, okay? So as we're experiencing this, as we're being in this, I lost my stream of consciousness. Hold on one second. It'll come back to me. It happens sometimes. Okay. Okay, so what they're saying is the third dimensional plane is not going to go anywhere. But what will happen is we will still be in a third dimensional plane. And here's why. Why the earth isn't going to, why we're not going to move into a fifth dimensional plane. We're moving into a fifth dimensional consciousness, right? And our bodies are becoming lighter. But the third dimensional plane allows us to be human. And what they're saying is our bodies are made up of a bazillion light codes. But when you bring all those light codes into a third dimensional plane, it compacts them so tightly that it creates form. And this allows us to have, right, a human experience, to have a physical, dense experience where we can touch and feel in a different way, where we can taste and smell, right? So this is what we all wanted. This is what we all wanted. We wanted to have this physical experience of connection and expansion and evolution. So the third dimensional and fourth dimensional planes will not go anywhere. And there will still be people that will have third dimensional consciousness, okay? Not every single person is going to go into a fifth dimensional consciousness. We actually need the contradiction of that to help us evolve and grow, right? This is why I call it the soul evolution, because we've spent a lot of time evolving technology, evolving the way that we live in a physical reality on a material plane. And now it's time for our soul to evolve, right? For us to begin growing in our consciousness and becoming more aware of things and what they truly mean and reconnecting with your truth. And so that is the difference between when I say we're moving from 3D to 5D, it's in the form of consciousness. So you can literally be a person who is in a fifth or sixth dimensional consciousness, and you're still going to be seen in the third dimensional plane because all of you is made up of light, right? So once you've embodied higher self and you've embodied your crystalline body, it's been integrated and replaced the carbon base density, right? That light is still going to be compacted in a third dimensional density in that plane so that we can still have that earthly experience while being connected to our truth, while being connected to all that is, with seeing things multidimensionally, being able to do that full 360 and see things. And so obviously some people needed to hear that to understand what moving from 3 to 5D really truly means. It's a shift in your consciousness. And we're moving away from believing, seeing to believing to seeing. And this is why more and more people with this big third eye activation, right? They're going to start seeing things they never saw before. Maybe it's somebody's aura. Maybe it's meeting an MD, a multidimensional or an extra dimensional, right? Maybe it's seeing fairies or gnomes. Maybe it's seeing their guides. Maybe it's just seeing things more clearer and from a cleaner lens because they are removing their density. So just know that this is where we're headed. And when we have these activations come in, it doesn't mean that day everything's going to change. It's the activation point. So for me, when I do a DNA activation and restructuring on someone, I always tell them I've activated the energy, but the energy is going to unfold and become and integrate at your speed. And I do that very intentionally because a lot of times if you're working with a practitioner of DNA restructuring and activation that is not really in integrity, right? And they don't do it in the right way, you're going to have a healing crisis. The whole world's going to fall down on you and it's not going to feel good. So we can't have everything happen at once. So this is the activation within your DNA that's happening collectively to allow this process to begin unfolding in those shifts. So while there might be some big clarity and some shifts in the beginning, know that over time, this energy is realigning you and placing you where you need to be and allowing things to begin to unfold and change and shift and be different inside of you. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about before I read the comments is the soul tribe activation. I did talk a little bit about it, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. So this soul tribe, soul family activation that's happening as well is kind of similar to the other activations in the sense that it's really activating, because it's activating so many people, you will feel called to people. You'll feel called to teachers, friends, random strangers, and you will just feel this soul connection. So a lot of people have been doing the work, right? We've been planning for this shift or event for years, right? Some way before even me. They've been talking about it. They've been planning it. Well, now it's happening. And for all those people that have been doing the work over the last few years, they've been making the space, they've been doing the work, they've been showing up online, they've been, working their business or changing their life. Now we come into that realignment with that activation of our soul tribes. So this is when you'll see new influencers, new leaders all of a sudden take off, right? They'll explode. All of a sudden they'll go from, they had 1,000 followers. And all of a sudden now they've got within a month or 2 months, they've got 30,000 or 100,000 followers. This is what I'm talking about. Maybe that person that you've been waiting for, your soulmate, right? All of a sudden shows up. You meet them by chance, clients, right? Opportunities, possibilities. This is being activated so that we can now magnetically attract the very people that are soul contracts for us, people that are meant to be in our energy. And this is why I've been preaching for the last 2 years, be the change, do this work, walk through those fires, because you need to make the space, because this is the year. This is the year that all of the big shifts happen. And if you're in any type of self-help industry, your clientele is about to get really big because we have a whole planet of people grieving, and they're going to be looking any which way they can, seeking guidance and looking for people to help them navigate this awakening process. Okay. And that's what the shift is, or the event, right? A couple of years ago, I channeled the Pleiadians on this, and they said, this is all it is people becoming more aware of themselves, people coming into that great awakening. It's the shift of consciousness within humanity, going from that third to that fifth dimensional plane. This is it. We are in it. And this is the very pivotal point that began in 2012. That's when I woke up. And I never really was fully asleep. I have always been more open-minded and more aware of things. But I went through the majority of my awakening that began in 2012. And a lot of other people as well. And this is when this wormhole, this is when that synchronization began. So now the closer and closer we get, we fully align, then we'll enter into that wormhole, that acceleration point. So all those people that have been doing this work and have been struggling and saying, where are all my peoples at? They're coming. This is what that soul tribe activation is. That person you've been waiting for, those clients you've been waiting for, that opportunity you've been waiting for, that person that's going to open a door for you and put your life on the path that you want. Those are the things that come with the soul tribe activation. Okay. And so not everybody is going to experience everything I said. It's really going to depend on where you are in your awareness, where you are in your consciousness, where you are in your beliefs. And if you're not there yet, this is going to help wake you up. This is going to help put you on that path of self-realization. And just know that wherever you are and whatever you're experiencing, it's exactly where you're supposed to be. Because if it's not, your life's either going to get really hard because you're in massive resistance to going where you need to go and doing what you know you need to do. So your life's going to get really hard, or it's going to go really good. And it's going to start thriving and accelerating and flowing, and things are just going to go at a very high rate of speed. So really check in with where things are in your reality over the next few months. And remembering that everything that you see and experience all started and began in your consciousness. It started with a thought, it started with a belief, and you brought focus on that. Because remember, how you are behaving, you have to be the change you want to see. So as you start being that change, the universe has no choice but to give it to you, because the universe only knows yes. It only knows yes, you guys. It doesn't tell anybody no. It gives you what you focus on. What are you focused on? How do you behave? How do you speak to yourself? We all know that you can put on a mask and you can portray yourself, but how you truly are behind closed doors is what you are relaying to the universe. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow at one point in time, because I thought I was doing everything right. But there was a lot of places where I still was not taking my own advice, where I still was not doing the things that I shared and spoke about. And I had to check myself, and I had to take responsibility for that, because that's what true leadership is acknowledging when you're off track and owning it and realigning yourself. It's not a bad thing. We grow through adversity. We evolve through those growing pains. We have to make mistakes to understand where we went wrong, or where we shifted, or what choices we made. Mistakes are necessary. You can't know what you know today without a mistake. You wouldn't be here right now. So no matter how bad you feel your life is, or how much lack or victim you may be in, or how heavy the energy may feel, surrender to it. And when you've surrendered, surrender some more. And when you surrender, you're not quitting. You're saying, I'm done holding this. I'm done carrying this. I'm done holding and focusing my energy on what was or what could go wrong. And I'm going to enjoy and celebrate and find things to appreciate in every now moment. And if you can't, just walk outside. Just walk outside and look at the miracle that is all around you. Okay? Let me look at the comments. Yeah, Vicky said it was months before I really started to see my DNA activation. It can happen all at once. I mean, could you imagine think about the amount of shame and guilt the average person carries, the amount of fear personalities, masks, and beliefs that we wear. Can you imagine if they all disappeared at once? You know how traumatic that would be? Tara Lynn, what I have noticed lately is the water also looks very different, or maybe it's just seeing the crystalline energy. It's you seeing the crystalline energy within the water. And also remember, water holds memory. So it's almost like when you get into a body of water, like for me, I have been really drawn to Florida. This whole year, I have tried to go to Florida like 2 other times. Well, I'm going for my birthday next month. I'm going on a girls' trip, and we're going to Florida, and I'm going to be in the water there. And there's a reason why I'm called to go into that water, right? And so when we get into a body of water, there's wisdom in that water. And maybe there's something in that we want to receive. So being in water right now is going to be a great thing, but that's probably what you're seeing, Tara Lynn. Taken back to Atlantis. Yes. Yes, Christina. That is that Florida energy for sure. The reveals, yes. Julie says, did you say that you're seeing these beings etherically or physically? Okay, so I see with my eyes open. I'm seeing it ethereally, right? Which is what you see out of your third eye. So I see it ethereally, but I can see like their full face. I can see their characteristics. I can see their coloring. I can see and feel and hear their energy. And more people will be able to do that. You just have to make space inside you, you guys. You don't have to do anything special to open up your clairs. The only thing you have to do is make space, right? So it's getting rid of the density, the trauma, all of that stuff that's down there. It's the more you make space, the more light can come in, the more these gifts will be able to translate the emotions and the energy that you're sensing and feeling. So I do see them ethereally. I have never had any type of physical experience with an extra dimensional or anything like that. It's always been ethereally, but I'll tell you, there are times when that ethereal image is so real that you would think that a person was sitting at my dining room table. So it's a matter of how clear you see, I'm going to say. Everybody's going to experience this differently. So I hope that answers your question. I have been seeing one single black ant everywhere in my personal space. I'm not sure what that means, but there's obviously a message in there for you. Tara Lynn's been seeing bassets. Angela says she's already feeling it a lot since last night. Yay! Yeah, Tara Lynn, it's been awesome. The energy, there's like, there was a time last year or even the year before that, I would have been like, you guys have watched my energy updates for a long time now. I've been doing them for a couple of years. And I would say, oh, we're going to have this intense period of the month, right? And it would be like this one little wave. But now, you guys, it's just this constant streaming in of energy. And it's like you never know when one ends and one begins. And sometimes they've been intense. But you know what? Something really is beautiful that's happened to me is I'm not really feeling the physical ascension symptoms anymore. And I'll tell you, when that day comes, you guys, you throw a party because it's amazing. When the energy comes in, you feel that bliss and that ecstasy and the magnificence of it, instead of feeling like, because you got to remember, this is high frequency light. So if it comes in and it hits density, it's going to hurt, right? So this is when we have like tremendous headache pains, or we have body aches, or we have like flu-like symptoms, or even nausea. As that energy hits the earth plane and kicks back up, that's where we get the spike in the Schumann resonance. So that's what's happening is 2 days prior, before a Schumann resonance spikes, there'll be a wave of energy, of crystalline energy, sometimes even gamma rays, photonic light coming through. And as it hits the earth plane, whatever is like residual gets kicked back up. And that's the spike in the Schumann. It's the frequency. And sometimes you'll even feel it coming up through your feet. So every now and then I will get that where energy is rising up my feet instead of going down. It's fun. You can't analyze all this stuff anymore. You know what I mean? Lori says, does this glitch happen when you look at people, auras, or their bodies? Anything. Literally anything. Last night, I was laying in my bed and I was just staring up at the ceiling, or into space, just up in this direction. So, there's a wall, there's pictures, all this stuff. And I just started seeing these glitches. So it's almost like these black and I don't know. It's like when your TV glitches, it's like, it'll be like these lines or this flickering that happens. That's what I've been seeing. And it's not necessarily at a person, place, or thing. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I've been seeing these glitches, and the glitches are happening is because this old system is these old timelines. They're collapsing. So they're breaking down. And as we do, we have glitches. And so some people will begin, a lot of people are going to quantum leap, right? And so when there's glitches, we are collapsing timelines. And timelines are possibilities and opportunities. When you go to a psychic medium, right? And they're like, let me tell you your future. what they're really doing is they're looking at your timeline. They're looking at your probabilities, your possibilities, your opportunities. And for a lot of people, there'll be ones that are more possible or more likely to unfold in this lifetime than others. And so they're picking up on those possibilities and opportunities. So when we go through collapses, we're taking the ones that are like, these are no go. We're done with these. We're making space for more possibilities and opportunities to come in. So we're getting rid of the timelines and the possibilities and opportunities that are no longer resonating with our frequency, no longer resonating with our consciousness. And that's what a timeline collapse is. And so you're going to see a lot of history being rewritten. You're going to see a lot of history being made and created. Okay. So this is a really powerful time for people to be documenting all the stuff that's happening. I know I'm being called to reignite that scribe energy, that being that I was in Egypt, really bringing that energy to life by writing my books. And my book that I've been writing for like 2 years, right? So I really got serious about it this past year, and it's almost completely finished, but I had to put it on hold for a little while. There was information that I knew needed to be in it that I didn't have yet. And that's the information that's coming for me. And it's already started coming. And so now I can finish it. So writing books, documenting all the things that are happening, sharing your teachings, if you are someone who's like me, sharing your perspectives, being that leader and that guide and facilitator for those that are going to be coming up behind you. Hi, Danielle. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Crystal. I've been thinking about you, girlfriend. Vicky says ants are building your tribe and working towards your goals, if that resonates with you. Terralyn says, ever since listening to you and you speak about the ancients, I have been seeing them. Aren't they the coolest beings ever? Oh my God, you guys, they are the coolest. With the amount of DNA work that I've done, I get a lot of different races of beings that show up for me, a lot of different consciousness levels. And so I've seen some really cool shit and I have worked with some really cool energies. But the ancients are far my favorite, and they were a very big acceleration point for me because they are a very big energy and you have to hold a lot of space to bring their messages through. And so I had to do a shit ton of deep, dirty, down bottom of the well grief clearing at the beginning of earlier this year, to make space for them. And I am so glad I did, because they are freaking cool. They are cool. Rebecca says the wobble between 3 and 5 has been a bit tough. It can be. It can be. But again, remember how tightly you're holding on to things is going to determine how much suffering you go through. So there's a lot of detachment and surrender that needs to happen. Let me see. Was there any other thing else I wanted to address? Hi, Gloria. Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. Surrender, surrender, surrender some more. Yes, sister, this is what we do. All right, you guys, I love you so much. Thanks for hopping on and listening. If this resonated, please give it a like. Please share it. Let people know what's going on. Spread the messages of light and hope. Don't let people feel like they're going through this alone. And I have lots of options if you guys need help. If you're looking for a facilitator, a guide, someone to hold space for you, you can head over to johannaburkhardt.com and check out all the options that I have. And I have a ton of free content on YouTube. All you have to do is go to youtube.com/C/Johanna Burkhardt, and you can binge on my content. I have tons of healing transmissions that are on there that will help you through some really tough situations. And so just know that any way I can, I have stuff out there to support you at any level that you are at. And I want you to know that you are loved and that you are perfect just how you are. And I hope you guys stay safe and love yourselves through these intense energies that are coming. And I'll be back to talk to you soon. Bye, guys.